live broadcast event. I had some issues with the, yeah, I should delete that. That's for later, if I ever get to that. And this is the doing icons live event. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do some icons. Now this is my huge Numix folder. And as you can see, no, you can't see it until I've turned the screen share on. Yep, and now you should see it. Yeah, just let me type. Yeah, I should reload that page. Yeah, I can see myself. So it means it's actually working. So I'm going to do some icons, and I'm going to start with folder icons. Now, a folder icon. I've actually did some icons, so I'm going to show their anatomy. This is the old folder icon, file open old icon, and this is the new one. So yeah, I open it with Gedit or Gedit or not. That's actually GIMP. I didn't show. I didn't see the label. My God, it's really hot in here, and I mean really hot. And this is the new one. Now I'm going to open one more icon. Sorry if I'm rushing a bit, but I always rush when I do such stuff. Now I'm going to redo that new folder icon. Now, as you can see on the old folder icon, the bottom bit of the folder is, no, I don't care about Hangouts right now. The bottom bit of the folder is actually less tall from the other. As you can see on other of the old icons, the bottom bit is actually quite taller, so we're going to shrink that. Now 25 is a bit too much. We're going to do, I guess, 20. We're going to move that to 25. We're going to set roundness here to 2 pixels. We always use 2 pixels roundness. We're going to delete that segment. We don't need it. Now we're going to create a rectangle to mimicate that sheet. It should be, what was, it should be 34, yeah. Good thing I did the icons. So it should be 34, not 24. I mean, geez, Paolo, what the hell do you want? Yep. Good thing that was one of our saner chats. They are much worse. And by much worse, I don't mean the ones that are posted on Google+. 7, we are going to center that or center that. 7. And now. We can actually move that a bit more to the top, like, I don't know, 20. Yeah. No, 20 is a bit too much. 18. Yep, that's cool enough. Now we're going to delete these segments. We don't need them anymore. We're going to recolor it, but before we do that, we have to make sure the color we choose will actually fit from the GTK theme background. Now our GTK theme background for the file manager uses F9, 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 so we go to, yeah, excuse me, I'm rushing again, File, Document Properties, Background, and we set that to F9, 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 FF. FF actually controls the RGB transparency, or RGB as I like to call it. Now we are going to set a color that's actually light, but actually it's visible on the F9, F9, F9 background. Now for sheets of paper, I usually use whitish light gray. No, it's not white. Whitish. I'm talking rubbish. I mean yellowish. We're going to make sure that's 2 pixels. Yep, 2 pixels round. Oh, yeah, I rushed again. The roundness is actually here. RX and RY. Don't make them pronounce RX and RY, if that's actually the correct English pronunciation. Not really good with the English way of reading the Latin alphabet. Now, as now the sheet is actually down, we'll actually create a Faux fold effect. We're going to make it 4 pixels. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going back here to show you. Now after the horizontal line is done, we draw a vertical one. 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do that. And we're going to make ourselves a nice square. We're going to color it entirely white. No, it's white means white George, or better yet, Georgi. Georgi, I don't really like the name George. It's too harsh. Plus, it's English, and I'm not English. We're going to nuke that dot here of the square, so because a triangle needs 3 dots and not 4, and we're going to make a triangle. So now we're going to duplicate that. Control plus D, and we're going to make it a mirror rectangle, so like this. I'm going to make it black. Ta-da! Yeah, yep, it's black and 20% opaque. And now we have to make some lines, but before we do that, we need to remove that part, which is actually useless. So we get the Bezier curves tool. And that's a fancy little name for that. And we draw a fancy idiotic shape. It's nothing fancy, just purely idiotic. But the important bit is that it actually, yeah, just let me lower this, is actually it surrounds this area we need to cut. The rest of the shape doesn't matter at all. Now we select this one, left click, we hold shift, we select the sheet, and now we do path difference, and folks, fold effect is down. And now we add some lines. So what lines are basically just rectangles. So that rectangle is 1 pixel round, colored in some yellowish dark gray. So I'm going to keep the same sizes, 24 pixel, 24 pixel wide, 2 pixel tall, and I'm going to create a rectangle. Now that's not 2 pixel, 24. Now we have to make it 1 pixel round, because as you can see in 2 pixel round it gets really squashed and really pointy looking, which is what we don't need. And with 10 on the X axis and 38 on the Y one. 10, 38. And we're going to copycat that color now. For the text lines, I use yellowish dark gray. I could show the process of cherry picking a color, but it's actually up to the designer. Now this one is going to be taller, not taller but wider, so it's going to be 28 pixel wide, because it actually doesn't really overlap that much with the fold effect, so we can allow it to be wider. 28. And as you can see, there's a rate you must keep here. If you start from 3 pixels here, you have to start from 3 pixels here, and you have to end 3 pixels. Always the same. That's for consistency. And that's pretty much it with this icon. It's actually down, as you can see. It's a copycat of the icon I've done for the file open. I can even say it with file with open copycat. God, I love that you get cut. And as you can see, they're absolutely identical. And that's pretty much for a places icon. It's not really complicated preset and it's nothing that difficult. We're going to close that, and close that. Now I'm going to check if my hangouts are okay. Yeah, they're okay. And now if we go to do a symbolic icon. So they're in our base icon team, Numix, Scalable. No, there's the keyboard devices icon, which I actually didn't really fancy. Now this is the new one I made, and this is the old one. I'm going to open them both. So, new one, old one, and new one. Now, you have to activate grid. You always have to allow to grid, but always, like you really should, no, you must allow, you always must align to grid in symbolics, like every bloody time, because otherwise they won't be crispy looking and the users will actually try to blood eagle you, or worse, like make not eat pizza forever, which is arguably much worse than blood eagling. And now we have to find the grid, which is obviously in view. And now, as you can see, that's not really aligned to grid, which makes the icon looks blurry, which is bad. Now, the new one, this is the new one. What we have here is a rectangle that's 16 pixels wide and 10 pixels tall with 2 pixels roundness. We use 2 pixels like I said in the places icons. And we go to center that. Shut up, I know it's center in English, but I don't really care. And as you can see, that actually covers the old rectangle. Now, what we need to do is that we need this segment, so we're going to either recreate. Screw it, I'm actually going to recreate them. So this should be moved away. Yeah, like this, and this should go here. And now we get to the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We get the rectangle tool with new code around. Oi, not here. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So this is the place, and with our rectangle. Now we should color it with different color. So I'm going to make it some disgraceful pink. No, that's not ugly enough. I should make it. Yeah, that's actually quite eye-jarring pink. Yay. Now, for the kicks of it, I'm going to make it absolutely brutal pink. Yeah, perfect. Now we're going to copy that. As you can see, there are 2 of them, now 2 more. But I'm going to copy them both, duplicate. And now we need a fancy enter. So we get the Bezier tool and we draw one. So 1, 2 pixels. So the 1, 2, 3 row is kept. It doesn't talk being 3, it could be 4 or more. That doesn't really matter. And we get 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we do that, and this, and this, and this, and we complete the enter. And now we copycat these ones. Now, we take this rectangle to we create one that's 2 pixels wide, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like this. Now, as you can see here, the keys are actually carved in the body. So in order to do that, we must select this and do path difference. But that's actually extremely tedious, so we're going to select all of these, which is just as tedious, but at least it's one time deal. Path combine, we then select the entire object, we select the big rectangle, and we do path difference. Now, the symbolic icons have a nice little trick that actually is the fact that it's colored by the GTK team. So even if I save this icon in, yeah, blue or some orange, yeah, that's, or green, yeah, that's actually a neatish green shade, like this, uh, or maybe a bit lighter like this. But that doesn't really matter right now. Anyways, whichever color I will choose in the real life UI, it will be shown gray. If you want to add a different color, like we did in the rubbish bin icon, let me demonstrate that. I'm going to create an empty folder, delete that folder, and the rubbish bin actually went red. That's because we made the rubbish bin symbolic to go red. You can do this by selecting the object you want to go red. Yes, sorry, my microphone moved away. Press Ctrl plus Shift plus X, then on the object you've selected, which will be automatically highlighted here, you type here style, and then you should, oh no, not style, it was class, yeah, and then you should add something like error, which will make it red. Warning will make it orange, and success, which I almost misspelled like an idiot, will actually make it green. Now, this is the stock classes that every GTK team should maintain, but if you are maintaining of your own GTK team, you can add whatever classes you want, and you could paint some class like Brutal Pink and color all symbolics in Brutal Pink, and you can piss off your users like this, which is a nice little trick, but I suggest you don't do it, because otherwise you have a unholy amount of community management to do with questions like, why the hell are your symbolic pinks? And you can save that. Yeah, that's a brilliant name. And it's as identical as this one. And that's your new keyboard symbolic icon. Now, yeah, I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to delete that too. And show you another keyboard symbolic icon. Another design of it. We're going to need to resurrect this as object and not as carved object. So I'm going to make some rectangle. I'm going to align it to grid just because I get a now. It doesn't really matter as long as it covers the objects we need to revamp as objects and not as carved objects, but I'm going to make it align. Now we are going to duplicate that. It's still not aligned. No, you will get aligned. I don't care what will take. Oh, yeah, huh, it's finally aligned. And then you should do path. No, it wasn't path. Now I have, no. Oh, yeah, bad idea. Like this path intersection, I believe. Or maybe path difference. It was. Or maybe should be just moved. Yep, path difference when the layer on which you want this resurrected is below the duplicated layer of the layer from which you will resurrect them. And now you select the edit by paths and you delete that, and our symbols are actually resurrected. Now we need to cut the unnecessary parts. So we make a rectangle, we nuke the roundness, and then we do the usual path difference when the object with which you will cut is to the top. Path difference, and then you can color this gray if you want. That doesn't really matter, but I'm going to color them anyway. FF. And you can save that as 1, and later on we can select which of the icons we will use. I guess this one looks a bit cooler, or we can do another type of icon, but that doesn't really matter because I actually didn't sketch anything, so this is just basically how to do icons the Inkscape way. Now, I was actually considering doing an application icon, but like I said, this tutorial is actually aimed for Inkscape because I haven't really sketched even on one application icon, and if I do try to do an application icon, it will end up a disaster without a sketch. I did made one, and it really did suck a bit, so I'm going to demonstrate it, Georgi, and then you have to go, I have to go to, yeah, there's square icons, so I can actually show them off, but mind you, the preset is actually faulty. Numix squircle. And yeah, as you can see, they look way too much like circle, and this one are atrocious icons. So let me go back to my beloved square icon team, and then I go to circle test, and a lot of icons I did here. And yeah, let me find the desktop out. Yeah, I tried to edit that icon, but I didn't do it really well because I didn't have a sketch ready. But at least I can explain the anatomy of an icon. You have 3 layers here. You have the symbol layer, which is basically the symbol and its shadow. Now, the shadow is actually redirected, is actually follows the inside shadow, which is on the base layer. Now, what you have on the base layer is actually the base plate, which in this case is 46 by 46 circle centered, and then you have the inside shadows, which is on the bottom right. Now, what that actually means is that the circle icon shadow should point to the bottom right, so they're basically a duplicate of the background layer of the symbol layer. So let me delete that shadow, let me go back to the symbol, we duplicate that, we group that, object group. Now we move the duplicated copy, oh yeah, bad idea, I moved the base layer. So we move the duplicated 1 pixels to the bottom on the Y axis, so 10, and 1 pixel to the right on the X axis, so 40. Now we color it black, we make it 10% opaque, and we move it to the bottom. So the inside shadow follows the same geometry as the inside, the symbol shadow follows the same geometry as the inside one. And speaking of shadow, there's a design error of this icon. As you can see, the file shadow here points to the bottom left, which makes no sense compared to the other shadows, so it must be redone, but not now because I haven't sketched anything. And that's a geometry of a circle icon. I'm not going to save anything. I'm going to show the geometry of a square icon. Repos, Numix Labs, Georgis, where's that square test folder? Yeah. Let's open the ep.1. It's actually cute. Yep, I'm an idiot. I forgot to show about one layer in the circle. Sorry about that. circle test. I'm going to open different icon, it doesn't really matter. There's the shadow layer, which is basically the shadow on the bottom right. If I switch to Numix circle, as you can see, there's shadow on the bottom right, which is this shadow on this shadow layer. Now the shadow layer you don't really need to tweak, so I've logged that. And now let me go back to square. And now anatomy of a square icon. Now you have the same layers, but this time we are going to use a different preset. So the shapes are different. Base layer. What you have on the base layer is a rectangle, rounded corners rectangle. And there's of course the inside shadow. Now for the difference of the circle icon, the inside shadows is on the bottom. Now the reason it's on the bottom is because if it was on the bottom right, it would have been just this area here, which would have made the icon look very plain, which would have been bad because we figured we would do a bit less plain icons. The correct term is quasi-flat, but a bit less plain actually works too. And then you have the shadow layer, which is basically the shadow. Now you're not going to see it very clearly unless I zoom in and unlock that. So we have for some reason it doesn't want to select, probably because that's some unstable version of Inkscape, but that doesn't really matter. Now the point is this shadow is extremely subtle and you can almost miss it unless you look really hard. And that's its whole point. We wanted to make a square a bit more fat than circle, because if we had a huge shadow here with that huge inside shadow, there would be too much shadowing and it would have not looked really cool. And you have the symbol layer. Now, if you recall, I actually said that symbols follow the inside shadow. Now, here's the symbol. This is the symbol. Yeah, with the with the paintbrush. That's not a. Oh, I suppose it can be used as a toothbrush, but that's actually a paintbrush. Now, as you can see, the inside shadows is just at the bottom. It's not at the bottom right, it's at the bottom. So it only makes sense that the shadow of the symbol is just 1 pixel to the bottom. So I'm going to delete that and replicate the shadow. I duplicate the symbol, I select all the symbol layer, I press Ctrl plus D, I do object group, I'll color it black, and that's a nice looking symbolic actually. And then I'm going to move it just 1 pixel to the bottom, not to the right, just to the bottom, so geometry will be kept. We don't want to mess up the geometry, that would be stupid. And then I move it to the bottom, and that's pretty much it. The shadow is recreated, and that's the anatomy of a square icon. And I guess that's pretty much completes this tutorial. There will be this hangout or tutorial or whatever you want to call it. There will be another one the next week in which I'll actually sketch an icon and then I'm going to show it and recreate it in Inkscape, but that's for the other one. I don't want to blow everything in one hangout, that will be quite stupid. So I hope you've liked this, and yeah, that's the closing credits, so I can play some dramatic music like, you know, Sodom. Yeah, that's not really dramatic, but it's still music. And the next week I'm going to do another one in which I'm going to recreate 2 or 3 apps icons. And I'm going to show how to do them in Inkscape, and I'm going to give a more detailed explanation of Inkscape, but that's for the next week. So that concludes this tutorial or hangout, so I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next week. Yeah, I should press the magical stop broadcast button. Okay, bye bye, see you next week.